Welcome to the Bald Brad Show. Our lead story of the day is yesterday's White House press briefing where Karine Jean-Pierre says something so insane, I firmly believe there's no shot that she actually believes the words that are coming out of her mouth. As always, hit that like and subscribe button. Leave us a comment down below. Share this link with your friends and family all over social media. Here we go.
You mentioned the president's excited to be celebrating his birthday, but I'm curious. David Axelrod told the New York Times, quote, Biden thinks he can cheat nature here and it's really risky. A, what's the president's response to David Axelrod? Does he respect his opinion? Does he think he's right? But also, I mean, is there a real alarm happening behind the scenes that the president is simply too old to stake around for another 4 years?
No, there's no alarm happening behind the scenes. I can only speak behind the scenes here. There's no alarm happening behind the scenes, and I'm certainly not going to comment on everybody who has something to say.
Nobody. I mean, David Axelrod
I didn't say that. Nowhere in my response to you that I said that. I said I'm just not going to comment on everyone that has a comment to say.
Damn, a little feisty, huh? Like, simmer down a bit. Sheesh.
They're going to speak for themselves. I'm going to speak for the president, and here what I'll say is, look, and also it's just not my job. It's not my job to think through or to tell people what to think, right? Whether it's the American people out there or a political analyst or as your question is about David Axelrod. It's just not my place to speak to that. What I can speak to is how we see this.
What is she talking about? Somebody in the live chat, the comment section, please tell me, what is she talking about? It's not my job. It's not my job to think through these things. Maybe that makes a lot of sense as to why she sucks at her job, because she doesn't think through anything. Very similar to her boss, Joe Biden doesn't think through anything, which is why we're in the situation in which we're in. Hey, maybe the stars are aligning for us here and it's finally coming out. They don't have a damn clue what's going on there in the White House because they don't think through this stuff. They don't think it's their job to think through this stuff. There you go. Now it's starting to make sense.
What our perspective is. Our perspective is that it's not about age, it's about the president's experience.
Oh.
That's what we believe. And it's, as they say, the proof is in the pudding, right? The president has used his experience to pass more bipartisan legislation in recent time than any other president. That's just a fact. That is something that we have seen this president do, and that's because of his experience. He's been able to manage multiple foreign policy challenges. He's been able to do that. That's because of his experience. He's been able to create jobs, raise wages, and lower inflation, right? And the proof is in the pudding, right? We see that in the data. We see that where we are today than where we were when the president walked into the administration. So what we say is we have to judge him by what he's done, not by his numbers. And one more thing I will add, this is the first president ever that's been able to go to an active war zone without our military, controlling what's happening on the ground. And so, look, I would put the president's stamina, president's wisdom, ability to get this done on behalf of the American people against anyone on any day of the week.
What? What? No way. She just said that. She doesn't think through things. She just said it herself. It's not her job to think through these things and give a response to everybody's question or answer that they give or comment that they make. She just straight up said that the president's stamina is basically bar none. Could beat out anybody. Could beat out you or I. Dude, the guy falls up a flight of stairs. He only works from noon to 4. They have a struggle to get him out of bed in the morning. I mean, you gotta be so insane to actually say something like that. But, hey, it's Karine Jean-Pierre. Should we expect anything different? No. But, damn, she always reaches that new bar of, like, there's no way it can get more insane on what she says. But she constantly breaks that record in the same way Joe Biden breaks the record for illegal immigrants encountered at the southern border. And we always think there's no way he can keep shattering those records. Well, they keep proving us wrong, folks. We got another, 6 months to a year of this shenanigans, at least. Well, here's another question that is proposed to her, and just listen to the drawn out answer. Oh, Lordy.
As always. I want to ask about...
I might regret it, but go ahead.
I assure you will not. I want to ask about polling. In February, the president conducted an interview with, I believe it was Telemundo, and he was asked about the dismal state of his job approval ratings. And he answered in words to this effect, "Do you know anyone that believes the polling these days?" And he talked in some detail about the difficulty of getting people on the phone and compiling accurate polling. Whenever you're asked about the president's dismal job approval ratings, you say we're not going to look at polls. We look at his accomplishments. And yet when you are asked about various domestic policy initiatives, you will say these poll very well. People support what the president wants to do. If you look at the individual subjects on the polling, they support what the president's agenda is. So once and for all, are only certain polls valid in your eyes, the ones that support your agenda, or is the polling data that shows that President Biden has been stuck for 2 years at the low 40s in his approval ratings, are those valid?
So here's the thing. I think it's important to share that American people do approve of some of the president's initiative. I think it is important. I think it's important for the American people to hear that when it comes to Medicare and fighting.
You gotta love the language there. That, oh, well, I think it's important to show that some people support this guy. Folks, 7% of Republicans support Joe Biden. Now, who they are, I don't know. But there's also a lot of Democrats that support Joe Biden as well. There's a lot of Americans that just aren't in the politics. They don't know what's going on, and they're always going to vote along party lines. So to say, well, I think it's important to show that there's some people approve of him. Yeah, there's always going to be some knuckleheads out there. It doesn't mean anything. It doesn't.
And being able to, Medicare, to be able to lower costs for the American people. I think it's important to share that. I think it's important to share that that when it comes to Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, the American people care about that and want us to fight for it, which is what the president. No, it's not. It's not that. It's not that. We are given, anytime I'm asked this question, given an opportunity to speak on what the American people want to hear and what we are doing, right? And so there are moments, just like when you ask me about certain polls, that I can say, hey, you know what? That is something that the American people support. But in more broad terms, in general, we're not focused on every poll. We just are not. It is not important for us that we believe to focus on that. We're going to continue to do the work and work on protecting Medicare, Medicaid, and making sure that Americans have their Social Security. And I think by saying that Americans support that, that is important for us to say that from here too, because we are actually delivering for the American people. We're actually doing what the American people want us to do. So when
do any of you believe that? Do you believe that they're delivering for you? Because they're delivering you the double middle finger, folks, big time. And in a nutshell, she's going here, well, you know, we're going to kind of pick and choose which polls we like and which polls we're going to present to people. Still kind of dodging the question, but she sort of did answer it by saying that. I'm like, well, I'm going to spin things in our favor, and I'm only going to utilize polls that help us push the agenda that we think the American people want. You don't know what the American people want. You're screwing us left and right, and that's why you're talking about three things: Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, and some healthcare stuff, which is great. But what about everything else? Foreign policy, domestic policy, our national security, the economy. I love how she's like, well, we've dropped inflation. Yeah, after you just increased inflation to 9.1% at some point in time, there was a 40-year high. It's like them bragging, well, we brought gas prices down. Yeah, you made them go up. So the person that destroys your property is going, hey, look, I'm fixing your property, but you're going to pay for it. But you're the one that broke it, and now I'm having to pay for it, and I'm supposed to give you credit for helping me fix something that you broke? Are you crazy? That's how they think, or their lack of. Like I said in the first segment, she said it's not her job to think about these things, you guys.
Say that. That's what I'm referring to. The work that we're doing, what we want to deliver on, what the American people care about. And it is the economy. It is lowering costs, right? I always talk about that. The president's #1 priority is to continue to lower costs. And I talk about what he has done, whether it's junk fees, whether it's making sure that people have good paying jobs by making sure that we've passed these historic legislation that's going to create good union paying jobs. All of those things are connected.
So the polls that show that the electorate at large and also significant majorities within the Democratic Party believe that the president is too old. The polls that show the American people and also significant majorities within the Democratic Party don't want him to run again. And the polls that show his handling of the economy, foreign policy, all of these dismal polls, his job approval ratings, Does the White House have any basis to challenge the accuracy of that polling?
I'm not challenging the accuracy here. That's not what I'm doing. What I'm saying to you is that, we're not going to change the minds of Americans. I get that. Americans are going to feel how they feel, and we're going to respect that. And I've said that many times from here. Many times. I said that moments ago. What I can tell you is what our perspective is. What I can tell you is how we see things. And we believe experience, this president having experience to get things done is important. And we know that it's going to take some time, right, for Americans to feel what we have been able to do in this administration, pushing through bipartisan legislation. That is...
Guys, I watch almost every single White House press briefing going back when this Dollard entered into the White House, when Jen Psaki was on the podium. They've been having the same exact messaging forever. Oh, well, you're just going to have to wait to feel the effects. This is such a leftist talking point of like, well, if we institute some policy, you're just going to have to wait decades to see it. And you're kind of raising alarm going, whoa, this is a bad policy. It's going to have terrible effects on the economy, maybe on the individual, whatever it may be of the policy they're trying to implement. So you're waving your hands like this going, holy lordy, this is not a good idea. And they're going, no, you don't understand. Just wait. Wait till you actually see the benefit of it, and it never actually appears. I mean, this is going back even to the 70s with Thomas Sowell doing his interviews on minimum wage and other things like that. But you've seen the border is one prime example. Oh, well, just wait. It's gonna figure itself out. Record after record being shattered. So, I mean, that is just one example of many that you could utilize here. Hell, Ukraine, oh, well, it's going to figure itself out. All the while, we're just throwing billions and billions of dollars at a problem that's probably not going to be fixed. I mean, any other issue you want to throw out there with the economy? Now you go, well, the mortgage rates aren't going to have a massive problem. Look, we brought down inflation. Okay, so now you have mortgage rates at 7.85%. Some areas it's 8%. And if you think that you're going to be able to buy a home at the price it is now, if you were to drop those inflation, like if we're in a nutshell, you have a reverse market. If those mortgage rates went down, say $1 million home is now going to increase to 1.4 million. You have a reverse market at that point. And now you're still not going to be able to buy a home, even with a slight drop in those mortgage rates. So that's just another example that I've provided where these shenanigans, these knuckleheads think, well, polls don't matter. Just wait till you see the real benefit of what we instituted. No, don't believe it one bit. Don't be fooled by this administration. I know you're not. I know we got patriots in here. There's no way that anybody's believing this shenanigans that this lady's pushing, but there might be one or two in here that go, well, maybe she's right here. Nah,
Historic. As I mentioned earlier before, this is a president that has done more bipartisan legislation than any other recent president.
Oh, recent.
And so that's what I can speak to. I can speak to our perspective. I can speak to how we see this. I can speak to what is important and how we're going to try to deliver for the American people. And I will say this,
by the way, they've been saying that same messaging since day one as well. Well, we're going to deliver to the American people. Again, they're delivering you the double middle finger, folks. That's what they're delivering you. They're screwing you left and right.
Just a couple of just data points here. I'm going to be careful not to talk about...
I can't do it anymore. She's just rambling. She don't know what the hell to say. And by the way, the IRS is changing the tax bracket, so you can thank Joe Biden for that. So Donald Trump gives basically Americans 3% in savings on their taxes by switching out the tax brackets. They're still keeping the percentages there, but they're altering the intervals at which the brackets are created or have been. So now you're about to be screwed. Some of you maybe not, but mostly Americans are going to be screwed because you're going to fall into either a higher tax bracket, which is probably the case. So you can thank Joe Biden for that, folks, of the switcheroo there, where the IRS is not just going after conservatives and political opponents, but now they're also going after the American taxpayer. Also, if you recall, we said this would happen. Remember when the IRS, they're well, we're going to put like all this money, we're going to hire like thousands of IRS agents, but they're only going to go after the wealthy. That's their job. They're only going to go after the wealthy. But yet, now they're going after the middle class Americans here with the deviation of tax brackets. And you know what their thinking was on this? You want to know the insane thinking of the IRS? This wasn't even part of the show. The thinking was, well, because inflation is so much, people are making more money because that could inflate the economy, right? More money in the pockets of Americans would inflate the economy, but so would you doubling the prices of goods and services. And people would think, oh, well, now that you making more money, well, you would fall into a higher tax bracket. So not only are you being screwed by making the same amount of money roughly because everything's doubled, not just expense-wise, but so is your income. But now because you're in a higher tax bracket, you're being royally screwed again. Joe Biden's double screwing you, and he's making it seem like, well, low unemployment. You know, people are making a lot of money. That's great. You're screwing people on all freaking fronts, dude. From a local level to a state level and now to a federal level. Don't be fooled by this administration. They're doing some wonky mathematics on you. Oh, great. We're all making more money because the economy's inflated. You threw trillions of dollars into the economy, costing everything the price of goods and services to increase. People want more money. Their standard of living changes. And you are now going to spin this whole thing using the IRS going, well, you're making more money. You moved into another tax bracket, so now you're being screwed once again. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's so frustrating because people believe this stuff. They believe it. It's wild. Well, moving into our next story, speaking of freaking wild things, folks, and speaking of spending a lot of money on meaningless things here, Biden's Pentagon slated to spend nearly $270 million on diversity agenda. I mean, this is not what you want to hear from your military when you got China wanting to invade Taiwan. You got Iran saying death to America is not a slogan, but rather a policy. You got sleeper cells in the United States right now from China and Iran and from other proxy terrorist groups that's being funded by Iran. But Joe Biden wants to give them $6 billion and then relieve some sanctions of $10 billion for energy, which is going to just shore up basically $16 billion for them. Now they're going to spend on terrorism. I mean, it is wild what is happening right now, but don't worry. Let's focus on diversity because that's important, you guys. Diversity is very important. I don't care about diversity. I care about diversity of thought, not diversity of skin color or gender. Here we go. The Department of Defense could drop nearly $270 million in taxpayer funds to further the diversity, equity, inclusion, and accessibility agenda for fiscal years 2022 to 2024. The DoD has scaled up its spending on DEIA in the past 3 years, jumping from $68 million in 2022 to $86.5 million in 2023. But the figure surged another $28.2 million. Oh my gosh. Guys, you get real-time reactions. I just read article headlines. And I'm like, let's talk about it. Let's do a little deep dive together on this bad boy. The figure surged from basically 30 million to 115 million in the department's internal request for 2024. Like a $90 million jump. Where's it all going? Talk about freaking scum, man. It's the swamp. You need to get Trump in. We all need to go out and vote and get Trump in because this is a waste of money. This is a waste of money bigly. If the DoD's initial request for DEIA funding to include in the final legislation, the department will have spent $270 million on diversity initiatives across 2022, 2023, and 2024, an average of $90 million per year. Oh, goody. Isn't that what we all want to hear? Biden's Pentagon has repeatedly pushed for further adoptions of DEI agenda in its operations. Oh, we know. And you want to know how bad this works out? Look at the podium. Look at the mouthpiece of the leader of the free world named Karine Jean-Pierre on her job, getting paid $180,000 to do that kind of work. That's a diversity hire for you, folks. Again, I don't care about the gender. I don't care about the skin color. I just want somebody that has the qualifications to do the job. That's what I care about. Karine Jean-Pierre does not have the qualifications, you guys, at all. I don't care that she's black. I don't care that she's lesbian. I don't care that she's part of the LGBT community. What I care is she's able to actually do her job and be trustworthy and transparent like she said she was going to do. Remember on day one, this administration's like, oh, well, we're going to be the most transparent administration that's ever existed. No, you're not. No, you're not even close. DEIA has impacts on both the department's workforce and its mission. And therefore, it should be examined beyond the traditional human resources lens by which it historically has been viewed. Oh, okay. Thank you for telling us how we should think and, view things. Oh, that's lovely. The $68 million dedicated DEIA programs in fiscal year 2022 was earmarked for the Department of the Air Force with the intention of increasing training programs and diversity and inclusion initiatives, with a portion of the funds going to unconscious bias diversity training. If that's confusing to you, that's basically saying you have biases that you don't even know that you have, and that hopefully through this training, they're going to reveal those biases in some way, shape, or form, and the goal is to change it. But here's the thing. With a lot of these lefties out there, They don't think that you can actually change your biases. They don't think that you can actually change your ways of thinking because of the privilege you have with your white skin, because all of white skin is what basically, or should I say white supremacy, is what created this whole society. And there's nothing you could possibly do to change that bias. There's nothing you could possibly do to change that thinking, because some of it is unconscious that will never be revealed. And it's that portion that's never revealed that is a thing that you can't change. And so you're inherently racist and you can't actually fix it. That's insane. That's white fragility. That's freaking Abraham X. Kennedy thinking. I mean, 1619 Project. That's basically what they're doing here. And it's a sham. It's a waste of taxpayer dollars. This is the way that you could sit there and, pay somebody 6 figures to do some knucklehead stuff like this that we're seeing from these universities. So instead of actually going to building up our military, which we should be doing right now, because like I mentioned, there's people that want to wipe you off the face of the earth, we're spending $270 million on these diversity, equity, and inclusion training programs. Oh, isn't that just lovely? Well, speaking of this unconscious bias and this internalized racism, white supremacy that's fabricated our culture and is interweaved within every milieu and social fabric that we have here in the United States, according to the left, Girl Scouts are to host training sessions on internalized racism, white supremacy culture. So more indoctrination going on here now within the Girl Scouts. The Girl Scouts of the USA is set to offer a 4-part racial equity training series to volunteers and parents focusing on internal racism and white supremacy culture. It's so tiring. I don't like racism. I don't like white supremacy. I can't be any more clear than that. I don't like it. I think it's evil. I think it's wrong. But to make it a point of interest here as if it's a major problem in the United States is so head spinning to me. I can't even fathom it and rationalize it. Is there racism out there? Absolutely. And it's evil and it's wrong. Is there white supremacy out there? Absolutely. It's evil. It's wrong. It's small. It's tiny. It's ridiculous. Basically what happened in Charlottesville many, many years ago, I mean, people were coming out of state. They were coming across the country. You basically had all the white supremacists there in one area at the entire United States. There was a couple idiots out there running around with their freaking pickets that should have never been out there in the first place. By the way, if there's anybody that's racist that watches the Bald Brad Show, don't be a part of us. We don't want you, and we don't want you part of the Republican Party, and we don't want you to be part of the conservative aisle either. I can only be so clear. I know like none of us are, but there might be one idiot in here, okay? We don't like racism here. I can only be so clear. The 111-year-old organization created to serve America's young women appears to have adopted critical race theory, the divisive ideology that has taken root in America's schools and corporations. The 4-part series set to begin December 13th. Happy New Year, folks. Merry Christmas. Look what you get to do. We'll start with a virtual lesson titled Foundations in Racial Equity before launching into Foundations of Internalized Racism a month later on January 16th. Quote, Understanding and Decentering White Supremacy Culture will take place on February 5th and will be followed by the final lesson titled Navigating Change, Power, and Equitable Decision-Making in late March. These DEI racial equity workshops are designed for participants to engage in building a learning community, developing shared language, and analysis around diversity, inclusion, and equity, deeply interrogating race. A description of these sessions obtained by the Daily Wire reads, quote, Participants also interrogate structural racism and its historical construction while reflecting greatly on the way it manifests in our individual experiences, organizational dynamics, and systemic outcomes. I mean, they're basically saying, hey, racism's interwoven into every aspect of life, and that every encounter that you have within your life, from either your conscious bias, your unconscious bias, whatever thought you may have to the skin color, to your own being that's internalized, as they mentioned here, to the organization, to the corporations, everything has to do with race. It's such a toxic way of thinking. And as I've mentioned in the past, we wrote an entire book, How the Left is Destroying America. It's the ideology that's destroying them. We have a whole chapter in this book devoted towards critical race theory, starting all the way from critical law studies. We walk you through this on how it's going to destroy the country from the inside out, because look what they're doing. They're targeting your youth in the education system. They're targeting the youth also in the college system. They're targeting youth in entertainment. They're targeting youth on the internet. They're targeting the youth in these corporations now that they're an adult. I mean, this whole brainwashing is going through all facets. If you want to talk about something that's systemic, that is systemic, not racism. Racism is not systemic. You cannot name a law on the books. You cannot name a corporation that is actually racist, because what they do go, well, there's systemic racism out there. Okay, I want to be on your side. If we're going to go after racism, I need you to be more specific so we can actually solve the problem. Well, there's just racism out there. Okay, well, who are the racists? what corporations, and then who in those corporations and what policies in those corporations are actually racist so that we can stand together and fight this. Again, I don't like racism, but when you just shout some generalized thing out there, how can I help you fix it? It's not solvable when you just shout something so general. Enough of me ranting on that one. The lessons will be held through GS Learn, a training platform for Girl Scout volunteers and family members of Girl Scouts. The Girl Scouts did not respond to a request for comment for the trainings. Of course they didn't. Of course they didn't. The decision to offer racial equity lessons mirrored the dogmas of critical race theory, coming after the Girl Scouts announced earlier this year that Scouts could earn a LGBTQ plus Pride Month fun patch if they attended a Pride Parade, memorized a poem written by an author who identifies as LGBTQ, or read about the Stonewall Uprising in 1969 and its importance to the LGBTQ plus community, writing a poem of their own about the event. So now they're pushing them, they're giving them incentives to do this stuff, isn't that just lovely? The Girl Scouts have also published an anti-racism guide, inspired by critical race theory that claims colorblindness perpetuates racism. Oh my God. Oh, yeah. So if you don't look at race, you're racist. If you look at race, you're racist. As I've mentioned, no matter what you do, you're just a racist. And that young children show a bias towards whiteness. The guide instructs parents to talk to their children about racism, even implying that parents who refuse may be perpetuating unequal justice, health, and education systems. So now if you don't put your child in this, you're just perpetuating this unequal justice, this systemic racism out there, and ipso facto, you are an actual racist yourself now. And you're only basically doing this through either a bias that you may have, the racism that you exude, or your white fragility, or your white, what the hell do they call it, that white privilege, or whatever. The upcoming racial equity training sessions will be held in conjunction with the Equity Paradigm Group, a North Carolina-based consulting firm that characterizes itself as a group of diversity practitioners, adult learning facilitators, researchers, organizers, change agents, I can't even get this out without laughing, and passionate social justice activists. Why don't you just lead with that? I mean, that's what you are, social justice activists. It just needs, this is who we are. This is what we characterize ourselves as, is social justice activists who are dedicated to evolving the way in which organizations approach their work. We ground our work in the historical construction of race as a system of advantage to analyze ourselves, our actions, and to identify the underlying implicit assumptions and biases that hold us back, the Equity Paradigm Group states. So there they go. And by the way, here's a little thing for the Boy Scouts for you. The Boy Scouts of America have also pushed left-wing worldviews on race, announcing in 2021 that aspiring Eagle Scouts would have to earn the Citizenship and Society Merit Badge. The Guide for Merit Badge Counselor, the adults who walk Scouts through the process of earning the badge, directs readers to resource the bash colorblindness, denigrate Christopher Columbus, and celebrate the LGBT movement. So there you have it, folks, interwoven all that stuff into our society. And like I said, if you're going to talk about systemic racism, I don't think that exists. But if you want to talk something that is systemic, you have critical race theory being woven into all fabrics, all institutions within the United States. Moving to our next story of the day, man, folks, we are killing it. Eric Adams cuts police education budgets to deal with ongoing illegal immigration crisis pounding New York City. I mean, it's so wild. I know I say it all the time, you guys. New York City was bragging for years, like Chicago or Washington, D.C. or Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, like, oh, look at us, we're sanctuary cities, we're a right to shelter state, all these things. So we give them what they wanted. They're bragging how they're going to freaking house all these people. They couldn't do it. It's so dilapidated in these cities now, not just for American citizens, but also for the illegal immigrants, that the illegal immigrants are actually leaving these cities and going back to their home country, of which they left because supposedly they're being persecuted and their lives are in danger. They're looking at these localities, New York City, Portland, Oregon, these lefty ran areas, and they're going, this is so bad, I would rather go back and sacrifice the possibility of losing my life in my country that I just flee from. And not only that, they're making things worse here because now they're taking the money that's supposed to go to education and police and now putting it towards illegal immigration. You can't make it up. You couldn't even write this. You couldn't. New York City Democratic Mayor Eric Adams announced Thursday that his administration will be making significant cuts affecting New York City Police Department and education department budgets, saying the cuts are necessary to deal with the ongoing illegal immigration crisis that Democrats created. So not only are you being screwed just on a level of your money being flowed out of your pocket left and right, because you're spending probably by the time Joe Biden gets out of office around $1 trillion on illegal immigration. But now we're sending more money at the border, of which isn't going to fix the border at all. You need a border wall. And there's some aspects that do kind of help with it a little bit, with the border agents going in there to do administrative services on basically filing paperwork and getting stuff through. But you are paying so much money on illegal immigration. And now if you live in New York City, now you're going to be paying even more for illegal immigration, or you're going to be getting screwed because the money that's supposed to keep you safe is now going towards illegal immigrants that have the possibility of, one, committing another crime and actually hurting your family. This is the same place that was kicking out veterans in these hotel rooms that served in Iraq and Afghanistan. like actually went to war for this country. They kicked them out of these hotel rooms in place of these illegal immigrants. I mean, I know I hound the Democrat Party a lot, but I only hound them on very specific things. The left, I hound all the time on a whole bunch of things. Democrat Party with illegal immigration, with our budget, with the spending that they do in the big government, I don't like. So on these aspects, I 100% do hound Democrats because they're the ones that created this problem. That party created illegal immigration problem. It's always been an issue, but they exacerbated it to another level that we can't even quantify. It's so head spinning. So they created this, and now you're screwing over Americans on all fronts because of a problem that you created. And you bragged about it, by the way. They bragged about creating this problem. Adams' budget cuts will freeze police hiring, dropping the number to officers below 30,000. The budget cuts will also slash the city's education department budget by more than $1 billion over the next 2 years, affecting school programs and libraries. Quote, no city should be left to handle a national humanitarian crisis largely on its own. And without the significant and timely support we need from Washington, D.C., today's budget will only be the beginning. Let me take a swig of my coffee here, folks. The move comes 2 days after Adams warned in a press conference that budget cuts to help deal with the illegal immigration crisis would be extremely painful for New Yorkers. This is the same guy that asked New Yorkers to house these illegal immigrants because there wasn't enough room, that their infrastructure was actually collapsing. They couldn't even take care of a few thousand, you guys. But Doug Ducey and Greg Abbott of Arizona and Texas have to take 6,000 to 10,000 per day. There's no way New York can handle it because Democrats don't know how to run things. It just shows you how efficient Republicans are at actually governing and doing things very, very well from leadership because of the amount of influx that they've seen in their state of illegal immigrants just running roughshod over the entire area. And what's also happening is here, extremely painful for New Yorkers that they're going to have to deal with this in these budget cuts. I mean, look, you did it to yourselves. You did it to yourselves. I don't feel bad for New Yorkers. You voted Democrat. You voted for Joe Biden. You voted for Eric Adams. Like, you voted for all this stuff. So I don't want to hear the complaining because you got a result of what you didn't think would happen, even though you have Republicans for decades saying, hey, this is what the result is going to be. But don't worry, we'll actually show you. We'll just go ahead and bust them to your locality. And now you're having to deal with it. And now your infrastructure is collapsing on all fronts. So it just shows you, again, like, people are just waving their hands like, hey, don't do this. This is going to be bad. They don't want to listen. So you know what? They get everything that's gotten to them. In all my time in government, this is probably one of the most painful experiences I've gone through. You also notice here that he actually calls it illegal immigration crisis. Karine Jean-Pierre still won't call it that. The Biden administration will not call it a crisis whatsoever. It's a situation to them. I mean, you have over 8 million people that we don't even know about coming into our country. Some of them we do, but we're trying to vet these people, and then we just let them in the interior of the country and say, hey, your court date's in 4 years. Here's a cell phone. Here's an ankle bracelet that they're cutting off and throwing in the trash. Hope we see you again. I mean, I've heard reports upwards of like 30% of these people don't even show up to their court dates. I don't know if that's true. Take it as a grain of salt, okay? It could be misinformation. It's not disinformation because I don't know if it's true or not, but that's a stat that I heard somewhere out there in the ether. The cuts to the NYPD come just a month after Adams said the Big Apple needs more police officers. What an idiot. As the city faces a rise in felony and misdemeanor assaults and car thefts. I mean, it sounds so much like LA, but it's just astonishing. It's all due to racism, you guys, by the way. It's all due to racism. But let's slash the New York City police, the budget, while you have rising crimes. So you can take care of another thing that's about rising crimes of, I don't know, illegally coming into the country, which is a crime. But you guys send money to take care of that because you wanted to brag about being a right to shelter sanctuary city. So now your citizens are being screwed. They're getting car thefts happening to them, misdemeanor assaults happening to them, felonies left and right, drug use, homelessness, just running rampant over your city, just like we see from Portland, Oregon, Seattle, Washington, Los Angeles, California, San Francisco. I mean, you name the leftist localities being ran by Democrats. This is what they're doing. Remember the whole defund the police thing? Well, look how well that's working out for us. You gotta love it. Jeez Louise, man. And they'll still vote Democrat, you guys. Still vote Democrat. Leftist Democrats slammed Adams for cutting funding for programs such as summer school and universal kindergarten. Well, there's only so much to go around. Money doesn't grow on trees. We all remember that phrase that our parents used to tell us. But for them, it does. And they're probably going to get shellacked here on more taxes having to be spent there. So now you're getting screwed by the IRS on a federal because of Joe Biden's in office and they're restructuring in that interval of your tax brackets. But now, because you got to pay for all this stuff, you got to get the money somewhere. You can't just print it. So now I'm sure New York City is going to have to increase some sort of taxation, or they're going to shift money around and screw your safety, which is their main function, is your safety. But, you know, screw that. Throw that out the door real quick. I mean, the article continues to go on, but hey, you know, there you have it, folks. New York City's crumbling, and we all saw it coming. Flagrant disregard for taxpayer funds. Pentagon fails 6th consecutive audit. Oh, boy. You know, if I actually used to be an auditor for a short time. I was a tax accountant, then I switched over to auditing last year. And if you would have this as a corporation, they would be gone, right? I mean, there'd be so many. There's so many errors within there, right? There's like a level of materiality that we look for in auditing. Basically, if you were to kind of make it very simple, we're looking for if a certain amount of errors exceeds a certain limit, then we need to notify basically whoever's going to be investing in your company or the bank that wants you to take out a mortgage or a loan or whatever it is that, you know, hey, there's too many errors, something's going on here, it raises what red flags, and we give you like a level and a distribution of which we put the audit. So they failed it 6 times, you guys, 6 times. The Pentagon has failed to pass its annual financial audit for the 6th consecutive year, prompting conservative lawmakers to call for consequences. Yes, I would say so. I'm so tired of government that there's no consequences for them, but there's consequences for all of us. If you fail an audit, even an IRS audit, you get penalized. You get so royally screwed. Say the IRS comes for you 7 years later and they audit you the 7 years back, that basically that penalty starts from that 7 years ago. There's no penalty, for the Department of Defense. There's no consequences. Nothing happens to these a-holes. Now, forgive me. I know I'm talking about the Department of Defense and, you know, these people are serving our country, but the Pentagon, which has $3.8 trillion in assets alongside $4 trillion in liabilities, only had 7 of 30 sub-audits rated clean. If that was to happen to you or I, we'd be so screwed as a business or an individual. 18 sub-audits failed, 3 are still taking place, and one was qualified. The news comes after the U.S. sent billions of dollars to military aid to Ukraine, and officials reports that the DoD has not been able to track all the weapons and military equipment that is sent to the country. I know you're not shocked. I'm just so pissed that nothing happens. You guys, we have Republicans in office and they're not doing anything about this. Oh, well, you know, there should be consequences. You notice that it said conservative lawmakers. You notice it didn't say Republican lawmakers. You notice it didn't say anything like that. I'm a fiscal conservative. I'm a registered Republican. I voted for number 45. Hopefully he's number 47. Donald Trump, the best American that's ever lived. But the swamp runs deep, folks. It's so deep. It's so criminal what Joe Biden's doing here. Sending billions of dollars to Ukraine, screwing our military left and right. Folks, they're not able to track all the weapons and military equipment it is sent to the country. That's your hard-earned money that should be going to this country and fixing our ish here first. And Joe Biden sending billions of dollars and we don't even know where it's going. It's not enough, McCord said, of the Pentagon fixing some issues flagged by the previous year's audit. They're not even done fixing the prior year's stuff, and we're finding more, or their lack of. The Secretary of Defense feels that we need to be doing better at this and moving faster. McCord said the Pentagon, I sound like Joe Biden, the Pentagon needed to work closer with the Treasury Department to make sure that they were on the same page and that they needed to use automation to optimize the process. No. See, it's a lot easier to deal with paper because paper can be shredded, paper can be lit on fire. Oh, I lost it. My dog ate it. You know, this whole shenanigans that they're pulling here. They're keeping things archaic so that they can hide things like this, where they could send billions of dollars of weapons and military grade equipment to Ukraine, and it just disappears. And it just so happens to land in the hands of Hamas and the Iranians. That's not too far-fetched, you guys. Joe Biden left billions of dollars of military grade equipment, helicopters, Humvees. I mean, you think of it, gloves. I mean, full equipment, night vision. I mean, everything in Afghanistan. So it's not far-fetched that this stuff could wind up in the hands of some other people, because Ukraine is, the amount of fraud in Ukraine is head spinning. That was literally one of the whole investigations that Shokin was looking under. Wasn't just Burisma Holdings with Hunter Biden on the board and looking into that. He was looking into all different types of fraud, because Ukraine, that's all it is right now, is fraud. But we're going to send them billions of dollars. Since the war between Russia and Ukraine began, Congress approved of $113 billion for Ukraine, with much of that coming in the form of military aid that they can't track. Lawmakers are also planning on sending billions in military aid to Israel amid its war with Hamas, but the House and Senate have yet both to approve any aid packages, including funding for Israel. Wild, dude. You guys, do you really think that $113 billion, I mean, of course, a lot of it is the military aid. You know that's not going all to the military over there in Ukraine. We're funding so many other things over there. It's wild. All the while, we're $34 trillion in debt. Quote, the running room we have to actually help Israel is much more constrained than it is for Ukraine, because we don't have to have any action by Congress yet. With news of the failed audit, Republicans slammed the Pentagon, calling for more accountability. They could shout to the skies like they're blue in the face, but until you actually do something, don't give me all this talk of there needs to be accountability and consequences for somebody's actions for failing an audit 6 times, 6 consecutive years. It's actually more than 6 times, right? Because you have multiple audits happening at the same exact time. This was just 6 consecutive years. As we mentioned, you're talking dozens and dozens of these audits completely failing, meaning we don't know where the hell anything is going. Nobody's being fired. Nobody's being thrown in prison. But like I said, if you did this, IRS would take everything from you. If you did this as a business, your business is shut down. But when our government does it, everything's A-okay. Don't worry about it. DOD's inability to adequately track assets, risks, our military readiness, and represents a flagrant disregard for taxpayer funds, even as it receives nearly $1 trillion annually. I mean, there's been twice that I know about of us just losing $1 trillion. The one that always comes to mind is the one right before 9/11, where we couldn't track $1 trillion. And then supposedly the plane hit the portion of the Pentagon where the paperwork and everything was being stored. $1 trillion when 9/11 happened. I mean, there's a conspiracy theory for you. Do a deep dive in that bad boy. All right, we're going to end it off with this, folks. Got Christopher Wray, FBI director, saying that Hamas and other Islamic terror groups, launching attacks in the U.S. You know whose fault this is? This is Democrats' fault. You know whose fault this is? Joe Biden's fault. An actual dereliction of duty, not protecting you and your family, which is the number one job pretty much of the government, especially the executive branch, to execute the laws in the books and protect you as an American citizen. Not only are they not doing it by having terrorists pour across the border, but they're also not doing it by having drugs pour across the border, sex trafficking pouring across the border. I mean, you name it, it's all happening under Joe Biden. Like I said, 7% of Republicans still think the guy's doing good. And you got a good portion of Democrats that think the guy's doing a fabulous job. Oh, God. I'm trying to keep it together, you guys. I'm trying not to lose my ish here. FBI Director Christopher Wray, speaking before Congress, warned that Hamas and other terrorist organizations might exploit the Israel-Hamas war to conduct terror attacks in the United States. No, duh! Why would you not? Why would you not? In a year where the terrorism threat was already elevated, the ongoing war in the Middle East has raised that threat of an attack against Americans in the United States to a whole other level, Wray stated. Since October 7th, we've seen a rogues gallery of terrorist organizations call for attacks against Americans and our allies. Hezbollah expressed its support and praise for Hamas and threatened to attack U.S. interests in the Middle East. Al-Qaeda issued its most specific call for attack the United States in the past 5 years. Al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula called on jihadists to attack Americans and Jewish people everywhere. ISIS urged its followers to target Jewish communities in the United States and Europe. Given those calls for action, our most immediate concern is that individuals or small groups will draw twisted inspiration from the events in the Middle East to carry out attacks here at home. Yeah, that, but also the terrorists that came here illegally. On the top of those so-called lone actor threats, we cannot and do not discount the possibility that Hamas or another foreign terrorist organization may exploit the current conflict to conduct attacks here on our own soil. We have kept our sights on Hamas and have multiple investigations into individuals affiliated with that foreign terrorist organization. And while historically our Hamas cases have identified individuals here who are facilitating and financing terrorism overseas, we continue to scrutinize our intelligence to assess how that threat may be evolving. I mean, the old phrase, right? Are you better off than you were 4 years ago? The answer is just resoundingly on all metrics, pretty much no. You're not better off. You are so screwed right now. It is ridiculous, from a financial level to a safety level to a national level to a foreign policy level. You name it. You are just getting screwed royally. And Joe Biden is giving you a double middle finger. You guys, I know Trump is looking good. Hear me out. If Democrats do mail-in ballots, it's over. We do not win. I know we're like, oh, there's no way. I agree. I agree with you that the thinking of like, well, how the hell could Donald Trump lose with what Joe Biden's doing? Because it's not bad enough, you guys. Poll after poll, it's not bad enough. You go to LA, it looks like an apocalypse. You go to some of these Democrat-run areas, it looks like the end of the world scenario. It looks like a scene from something out of a movie. It's still not bad enough to Democrats. People passed out, dying on the streets left and right, illegal immigrants, just thousands of them pouring across into our border, terrorists. It's not bad, you guys. Not nearly bad. So, yeah, Joe Biden could win. Think about that. Yeah, I'm right there with you. Trust me. Like, Brad, that's crazy. What a crazy thing to say. You sound like Karine Jean-Pierre. I know. But look what they did in the last election. Look what they did. And they're already trying to do it. We did an episode just the other day where Rolling Stone is spreading already fake news about Donald Trump. And you have these lefties in the comment section go, well, he was complaining. No, he wasn't. They clearly don't know the definition of complaining. There's a difference between complaining and being charming. He was making a joke. They don't get that, though. They can't fathom it. And this is why these same people will still vote for Joe Biden, because they don't know what the hell's going on. They can't rationalize things realistically. So now you have people pouring across the border. And you notice anywhere in here, he's not really blaming illegal immigration on this. You notice that? It's like, well, they might use the whole thing in the Middle East to conduct attacks here. Yeah, but, how are they going to get there, Ray? How are they actually going to come through our border? Sure, they can come through some other places, but let's be honest, they're going to come through our southern border and already have come through our southern border. And right now, they're probably planning an attack to harm you and your family. And you have every Democrat to thank for that, because they put in Joe Biden. And everything they said that would happen under Trump is now happening under Joe Biden. And they'll still vote for the guy. I know I'm repeating myself, but it's mind-blowing. With that being said, folks, as always, would love your support in purchasing the book. It is the new year, folks. It is Christmas time. Black Friday. All the merch is, I don't want to say it's cheap, with everything going on with Biden. We're all getting reamed left and right. But by cheap, I just mean that it's I can't go any lower on it. Like, the actual tab won't let me drop the price any lower. So if you guys want to get gear, there's no problem. I just want you guys to swagger out in the Broad Brad Show merch. So that's there for, we got mugs, we got phone cases, we got hoodies, we got women's attire. We got a lot of ladies on the show. Neil, Eric, what are you doing, boys? Get the ladies some attire. We got Music Junkie. We got Jess. We got Jennifer. I mean, we got everybody in here. Get yourself some gear if you can. We're trying to make it reasonable. I love you guys. I know things are tight. We're all in a pinch. You just watching supports the show. But if you wanted something, I didn't want you to feel like I was ripping you guys off or something like that. I just want you guys to be able to have the gear, wear the swagger. The book, I think, I don't have any control on the sale of the book. I think it is down on Amazon, so it might be cheaper than what it normally is. You can get that there for yourself. And with that being said, I hope you guys, I don't know if we're going to be on tomorrow. I don't even know when Thanksgiving is. What the hell the day is. I'll still upload videos, but do you guys want something on Thanksgiving? I don't know. I don't know many people that would watch the show. Maybe they will, maybe they won't. If you guys want an episode on Thanksgiving, I'm more than happy to make one for y'all. You guys just let me know in the comment section. And I hope you're all having a blessed week. I care about all of you. Thank you so much for your warm and loving emails that you guys constantly send me. You are true American patriots. I do firmly believe that. We have the freaking best show here on YouTube. We're growing. All right. Maybe not the best show. Maybe I was exaggerating. I sound like Jen Psaki there. Or Karine Jean-Pierre. If you could, though, hit the like and subscribe button for me. Leave us a comment down below. It does yeoman's work in supporting the show. Basically, YouTube wants to see you guys interacting with the channel. And then you copying that link and just sending it somewhere, I heard also helps the algorithm as well. All your support is much appreciated. I don't take any of it for granted. You guys are absolutely amazing. You care about this country and you care about our community as well. So I care about each and every one of you. Thank you so much. And folks, I'll see you tomorrow here on The Ball Brad Show.